The boat cut through the brown water like a knife through butter. 5 people sat inside, and they were not from this place. They wore expensive clothes and carried cameras that cost more than what most local families earned in a year. They had come from the city, from lives of comfort and air conditioning, and they wanted something real. They wanted to see danger. They wanted to feel alive. At the front of the boat sat a man named. He was the leader of the group. He had millions of followers on the internet, and they watched everything he did. He had jumped from planes. He had swum with sharks in cages. He had climbed mountains that touched the clouds, but he was bored. His followers were bored too. They wanted something new, something nobody had ever filmed before. "I want to see a real beast," had told his assistant before the trip. "Not some animal in a zoo. I want something that can kill me, something that makes people afraid to close their eyes at night." His assistant had made some calls. Money changed hands. And now here they were, deep in the mangroves of northern Australia, in waters where the local people refused to go. The man steering the boat was named Ray. He was 57 years old, and his face looked like leather that had been left in the sun for too long. His hands were rough, and 3 of his fingers were missing from the left one. He did not smile. He did not talk much. He just watched the water with eyes that had seen things these city people could never imagine. Ray had lived in these waters his whole life. His father had been a crocodile hunter, his grandfather too, but Ray did not hunt anymore. He had stopped 30 years ago after a night that changed everything. Now he just watched. He studied. He learned. And sometimes when people paid him enough money, he showed them what real fear looked like. "This is boring," said one of the women in the group. Her name was Chelsea, and she was filming everything with her phone. "We have been on this boat for 3 hours. Where are the crocodiles?" Ray did not turn around. "They are everywhere," he said quietly. "They are watching you right now. You just cannot see them." Chelsea laughed. "Sure they are. This feels like a waste of time." Leaned forward. "Listen, old man. We did not fly 10,000 miles to look at dirty water. We paid you good money. Show us something worth filming, or we will find someone else who can." Ray finally turned to look at them. His eyes were cold and empty, like the eyes of the creatures that lived beneath the surface. "You want to see something worth filming?" he asked. "You want to see a real Earth beast?" "Yes," said with a big smile. "That is exactly what we want." Ray was silent for a long moment. Then he changed the direction of the boat. They moved deeper into the mangroves, where the trees grew so thick that the sunlight could barely reach the water. The air became heavy and hot. The sounds of birds and insects grew louder, then suddenly stopped completely. "Why is it so quiet?" whispered another member of the group, a young man named. His face had gone pale. "Because everything here knows what lives in this water," Ray answered. "Everything here knows to be silent and still. It is how they stay alive." The boat stopped near a muddy bank. Ray reached into a cooler and pulled out a large piece of meat. It was bloody and raw. He tied it to a rope and threw it into the water. "Now we wait," he said. "Wait for what?" Chelsea asked, but her voice was not so confident anymore. "For him," Ray said. "I have known him for 23 years. He is 18 feet long. He weighs more than a car. He has killed at least 4 people that I know of, maybe more." Laughed nervously. "You are joking." "I do not joke," Ray said. "Out here jokes get people killed." 10 minutes passed. 20. The group grew restless. They started to whisper among themselves that this was all a trick, that the old man was just trying to scare them, that there was probably nothing in this water at all. Then the water moved. It was not a small movement. It was like the whole river shifted. A wave hit the side of the boat and made it rock violently. Chelsea screamed and dropped her phone into the water. "What was that?" shouted. "What the hell was that?" Ray pointed at the water. "Look." 2 eyes appeared above the surface. They were far apart. Too far apart. The distance between them told a story of impossible size. The eyes were golden and ancient, and they stared at the boat with a cold intelligence that made every person in the group freeze. Then the crocodile rose. It came up from the water like a nightmare coming to life. Its head was as big as a dining table. Its teeth were yellow and long, some of them broken from years of crushing bone. Its body kept rising and rising, revealing scales that looked like armor from some ancient war. The creature was not just big. It was monstrous. It was prehistoric. It was death itself, wrapped in leather and muscle and hunger. Nobody in the boat could speak. Nobody could move. They had asked for a beast, and now they understood what that word really meant. The crocodile grabbed the meat from the rope with a movement so fast that nobody saw it happen. One moment the meat was there. The next moment it was gone, disappearing into that massive jaw. The sound of the bite was like a gunshot echoing across the water. Fell backward off his seat. His expensive camera fell into the bottom of the boat. He did not care. He could not take his eyes off the creature that was now swimming slowly around them, its tail moving back and forth like a weapon waiting to strike. "Get us out of here," Chelsea whispered. Her whole body was shaking. "Please, get us out of here now." But Ray did not move. Instead, he did something that made everyone in the boat think he had lost his mind. He stood up. He walked to the edge of the boat, and he began to speak to the crocodile in a low, calm voice. The words were not English. They were not any language the group recognized. They were just sounds, deep and rhythmic, like a song from the beginning of time. The crocodile stopped swimming. It turned its massive head toward Ray. Those ancient eyes met his human ones. For a long moment, nothing happened. Man and beast, face to face, separated by only a few feet of water. Then slowly, the crocodile sank beneath the surface. The water rippled once, twice, and then became still again. The creature was gone, disappearing back into the darkness from which it had come. Ray turned back to the group. They were all crying, all of them. Even the man who had jumped from planes and climbed mountains. Tears ran down his face as he sat in the bottom of the boat, his hands gripping the sides so hard that his knuckles had turned white. "You asked for an earth beast," Ray said quietly. "Now you have met one." He started the engine and turned the boat around. Nobody spoke for the entire journey back. The only sound was the motor and the soft crying of people who had finally understood something important. They had thought they were at the top of the food chain. They had thought their money and their cameras and their followers made them powerful. But out here in the ancient waters of the mangrove, they were nothing. They were just meat, just food, just visitors in a world that did not care about their likes or their views or their fame. The sun was setting by the time they reached the dock. The sky was red and orange like fire spreading across the horizon. Ray tied the boat and stepped onto the wooden platform. He did not offer to help any of them out. He did not say goodbye. He just walked away, back to his small house at the edge of the water, where he would sit on his porch and watch the darkness come. Because he knew something that his visitors did not know yet. He knew that once you have met a real beast, once you have looked into those ancient eyes and seen your own death looking back at you, nothing is ever the same again. But for the night was just beginning. Because even though he was terrified, even though he had cried like a child, there was something else burning inside him now. Something stupid. Something dangerous. He wanted to go back. The moon was high and full that night. It painted the water silver and made shadows dance between the mangrove trees. Everyone else was asleep in the small hotel near the dock, but was awake. He sat on his bed, looking at his phone, watching the video he had managed to save from earlier that day. The footage was shaky and dark, but you could still see it. The massive head rising from the water, the ancient eyes, the teeth. His followers would go crazy for this, but it was not enough. The shot was too far away. The quality was too poor. If he wanted to break the internet, if he wanted to be remembered forever, he needed something better. He needed to get closer. Got dressed quietly. He took a flashlight from his bag and a waterproof camera that could film in the dark. He did not wake the others. They would try to stop him. They would tell him he was crazy, and maybe he was, but crazy was what made people famous. Crazy was what separated the legends from the forgotten. He walked down to the dock where the boats were tied. The night was hot and thick, and the air smelled like salt and mud. Insects sang their songs in the darkness. Somewhere far away, a bird called out once and then went silent. Climbed into one of the small boats and started the motor. The sound seemed too loud in the quiet night, but nobody came running. Nobody tried to stop him. He pointed the boat toward the mangroves and disappeared into the darkness. He remembered the way. Left at the big tree with no leaves. Right at the place where the water changed color. Straight until the trees grew so close together that the moonlight could not reach the surface anymore. When he reached the spot where they had seen the crocodile, he turned off the motor. The silence was complete. No birds, no insects, nothing. Just the soft sound of water touching the sides of his boat. Turned on his flashlight and pointed it at the water. The beam cut through the darkness like a knife. He moved it slowly, searching for those golden eyes, searching for the beast. "Come on," he whispered to the night. "Show yourself. I know you are out there." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of meat he had taken from the hotel kitchen. He threw it into the water and waited. Back at Ray's house, the old man sat up in bed. His eyes opened suddenly as if someone had called his name, but no one had. The house was quiet. Outside, the night was still. But something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones. After 57 years of living beside these waters, he had learned to trust feelings that he could not explain. And right now, every part of him was screaming that something bad was about to happen. He got out of bed and walked to his window. The dock was visible in the moonlight. He counted the boats. One was missing. "Fool," Ray said quietly. "You stupid, stupid fool." He moved faster than a man his age should be able to move. He grabbed his boots, his knife, and a long pole with a hook at the end. He ran to the dock and jumped into his own boat. The motor roared to life, and he disappeared into the mangroves, following the path he knew the fool would have taken. Was getting impatient. The meat had floated away into the darkness and nothing had happened. Maybe the crocodile was not hungry. Maybe it was somewhere else tonight. Maybe this whole thing was a waste of time. He decided to get closer to the bank. He used a paddle to push the boat through the shallow water until he was only a few feet from the mud. This is where they had seen the creature appear. This is where the beast lived. He pointed his flashlight at the bank and pressed record on his camera. "Hey everyone," he said to the camera with a smile that looked brave but was not. "So I came back alone to get you guys some better footage of that monster crocodile. I know you are going to love this. Let me show you where this beast." The water exploded. It happened so fast that did not even have time to scream. 1 second he was talking to his camera. The next second, an 18-foot wall of muscle and teeth was launching itself out of the water toward his boat. The crocodile's mouth was open, and inside that mouth was darkness and death and the end of everything. Threw himself backward. The flashlight flew from his hand. The camera landed in the water. He hit the bottom of the boat so hard that all the air left his lungs. The crocodile's jaws closed on empty air, inches from his face. He could smell its breath. He could see every tooth. He could feel the heat of its body as it crashed down onto the front of the boat. The boat tipped violently. Water rushed over the side. Was going to die. He knew it with perfect clarity. He was going to die in this dark water, and no one would ever know what happened to him. His body would never be found. The crocodile would eat him, bones and all, and he would disappear from the world like he had never existed. The crocodile pulled back for another attack. Its eyes found in the darkness. It knew exactly where he was. It was not rushing now. It was taking its time, playing with its food. Then another boat appeared from the shadows. Ray came out of the night like a ghost. His boat slid between and the crocodile, and he stood at the front with his feet planted wide and his arms at his sides. He did not have a weapon in his hands. He did not look afraid. The crocodile turned its attention to Ray. Those golden eyes studied him. The massive tail swished back and forth in the water, ready to strike. Ray began to speak, the same strange sounds from before, the same low, ancient song. His voice was calm and steady, like he was talking to an old friend, like he was asking for something, like he was making a deal. The crocodile did not move. It watched Ray with an intelligence that seemed impossible for an animal. Minutes passed. The night held its breath. Then slowly, the crocodile lowered its head. It sank back into the water. It turned and swam away into the darkness, disappearing beneath the surface without making a sound. Ray stood there for a long moment, watching the water. Then he turned to look at who was lying in the bottom of his boat, crying and shaking and covered in mud and water. "Get in my boat," Ray said. His voice was tired. "That one is going to sink." Crawled across to Ray's boat. He could not stand. His legs would not work. He lay on the floor and cried like a child while Ray drove them back through the mangroves. When they reached the dock, the sun was starting to rise. The sky turned pink and gold, and the water sparkled like it was full of diamonds. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. It looked nothing like the place of nightmares that had just escaped. Ray helped him out of the boat, tried to speak, tried to say thank you, tried to apologize, but no words came out. Ray just nodded like he understood. "You came here looking for a beast," Ray said softly. "But the real beast was never in that water. The real beast was in you. It was the thing that made you think you could come here and take whatever you wanted. It was the thing that made you believe you were more important than the laws of nature." Looked at the old man. The tears were still wet on his face. "How did you do that?" he asked. "How did you make it stop?" Ray was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I did not make it do anything. I asked, and it chose to listen. That is the difference between people like you and people like me. You try to control things, I try to understand them." He turned and began walking toward his house. Then he stopped and looked back one more time. "Go home," he said. "Tell your followers what you saw, but tell them the truth. Tell them that out here in the places where humans have not yet destroyed everything, there are still things that are bigger than us, older than us, more powerful than us. And if we do not learn to respect them, they will remind us why we should be afraid." Ray walked away into the morning light, watched him go. Then he looked out at the water one last time. Somewhere out there, beneath that beautiful, peaceful surface, the crocodile was waiting, patient, eternal, unforgiving. Turned and walked toward the hotel. He had come here looking for content. He had found something else entirely. He had found the truth about himself, and it was more terrifying than any beast could ever be.